everybody. Good morning. Good to see you on this beautiful day. We're going to sing I Am Thine, O Lord, to start us off this morning. I am thine. Let's sing out. I am thine, O Lord. I have heard thy voice and told thy love to me. But I long to rise in the arms of faith and be closer drawn to thee. Draw me nearer, nearer, blessed Lord, to the cross where thou hast died. Draw me nearer, 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 blessed Lord, to thy precious bleeding side. Not to bring me down to thy service, Lord, by the power of grace divine. Let my soul look up with a steadfast hope, and my will be lost in thine. Draw me nearer, nearer, blessed Lord, to the cross where thou hast died. Draw me nearer, 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 blessed Lord, to thy precious bleeding side. There are depths of love that I cannot know till I cross the narrow sea. There are heights of joy that I may not reach till I rest in peace with thee. Draw me nearer, nearer, blessed Lord, to the cross where thou hast died. Draw me nearer, 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 blessed Lord, to thy precious bleeding side. Awesome. Thank you, Courtney. All right. When you came in, you grabbed a piece of music and you grabbed, hopefully, a calendar for November and December. And also, there's a sign-up sheet. 2 weeks from today will be our annual Thanksgiving luncheon. So make sure you sign up for that as well. And then our trivia question for today is, think deeply, because when I asked Gail, she did not know the definition of this, so I'll ask you. In 1956, this variety show appeared on television for the first time. This variety show in 1956. What was the name of the show? Shirley, your hand was raised first.
A variety show, you said?
Variety show.
Okay, cheers.
Not Ed Sullivan, Angel.
I thought too.
All right, good.
I thought too.
Karen?
Red Skelton?
No. Beulah?
Carol Burnett?
No.
Three Stooges?
It's not a variety show. Mike? Huh?
Ted Max Amateur Hour.
Nope. Linda?
Carrie Como?
Nope. But that's sort of close.
What'd she say?
Perry Como. Ed?
Lawrence Welk.
No. Angelique?
Andy Williams.
Not Andy Williams either.
Mary Como?
Yeah, she said Perry Como. Beulah?
Dean Martin?
No. I'm going to give you a hint. Joe?
The Donna Shore Show.
No. I'm going to give you a hint. Okay now?
Jack Benny.
No. I'm going to give you a hint.
Okay.
He was unforgettable.
That's what you are.
Yolanda? Nat King Cole Show.
Put a song to it, and I'll tell
Everybody got announced. We got every other person. I didn't either.
The other one was too easy. What board game started in 1935? What board game?
Monopoly.
Monopoly, yes. All right, Tom is out today, so Russell, it's all you. We do want to welcome our first time, we have a guest today. Adrian was here. She was here Sunday and she signed up to be here again today. Welcome, Adrian. Angelique? It's over off of Great Bridge. It's outside of
Where is he looking for? What is he looking for?
The Willow Creek.
Willow Creek?
I'll get back to you.
This on Great Ridge Boulevard.
Yeah.
No, there. Yes, yes. I need to talk to you about that afterwards. All right. All right, well, so
Great Bridge Boulevard.
that's what I thought, Great Bridge.
Good morning. Gotta get everything turned on from here. This is a great device. It can also be awful device at the same time.
Especially if you're old.
I haven't quite gotten there yet, but some days I feel that way. Thank you. So we've had some beautiful weather, and I really love it. But today we're going to bring it down. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to bring it down. Hopefully be very uplifting this morning. Oh no, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to let that stay outside, and we're going to pray for our leaders. Yes, that's what we do. Always pray for our leaders. We're definitely going to do that.
Because no matter what, God let our faith go.
And that's what's important. God is still God. He's always going to be. He's with us no matter what. We talked about on Sunday with Tyler. He's always there, and that's what's so important, that He is with us no matter what happens, no matter circumstances that are beyond my control, beyond our control. So this morning, I have a big question to ask, and it's one that really touches my heart, especially when it comes to what we're going to be talking about. But have you ever felt lonely?
What? Lonely?
Lonely.
Why don't you say, is there anybody that hasn't felt lonely?
How's that? Raise your hand if you've never felt lonely.
you've never,
All right. We've all felt lonely at some point. We've all felt like everything's kind of coming down on us. Have you ever felt like you were almost at the end of your rope, like everything was just falling apart? But then when you kind of retrospectively looked at your life from a future point, hindsight can be 20/20, you say, you know what, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But at the same time, sometimes you look back and say, it's worse than I really understood at the same time. Well, today we're going to kind of talk about that. But we're not going to talk about it from some lofty standpoint. We're going to really talk about what these things mean to us and how they affect us, because they do. We feel lonely. We get sad. We get sick. There are times when we're broke. There are times when we need things. There are times when in our past, for many of you, it may have been when you were my age or even younger, that you kind of struggled. That now you may say, oh, everything's kind of good now. The things in my life, are sickness or illness, but kind of financially I'm all better off now than I was when I was a kid, or when I say kid, I mean like 20 and 30. Not kid like as in 10 years old. That's kid to me. Kid to you may be me being a kid in 40s. I'm 43.
43, okay.
43. I'm still a kid, right?
Well, you're younger than my grandson.
You're right. There you go. I'm one of some of your grandchildren, yeah. But that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about those times when you felt that way, and at the same time, we're going to put some real application to it, as Jesus is going to kind of talk about something that can be very depressing. He's going to talk about the end times here. Again, we're going through the entirety of what he was talking about with the judgment, how things are going to end back in chapter 24. Now we're getting into the church age, where he's talking about the difference between those in the church who are going to obey him, those who are not going to obey him, those who are just going to say, Lord Jesus, I love you. And he's going to say, are you sure about that? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So can I get someone to read, that we're in Matthew 25. We're down at verse 31. Can I get someone to do verse 31 and 32? And 33.
When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his throne, in heavenly glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats.
One more. 33.
Okay. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left.
Now, a couple weeks ago, Tyler talked about Ehud, the mighty warrior Ehud, so brave and what he did where he takes on King Eglon. Now, does anyone remember something special about Ehud that makes him different?
Left-handed.
He was left-handed. Now, how many of you are left-handed? So, a few that are left-handed. Okay, my brother is left-handed. My wife is left-handed. So
My son is left-handed.
Your son's left-handed? Now, a long time ago, you're ambidextrous, so you're left-handed as well. Yep. So that's actually a really cool skill to have.
It is.
When I used to draw, I would have loved to have been able to use my left hand. But my right hand, I'd always go from right to left when I drew, so I'd end up smearing everything across the paper. I haven't done that in a while, though. But, so what we're talking about is a gentleman who used his left hand primarily. What was he able to sneak in? Does anyone remember when he met the king? A sword. Why?
To kill the
Because
king.
TSA only checked his right side.
They didn't check his right side. Right. Why did they check his right side?
Because you get carried swords.
People carry their swords on the left. They'd say, oh, and they'd pat you down, kind of like the police do, except apparently not as thoroughly. So he's able to hide, and his sword would have been short. It wouldn't have been, when we think about medieval swords. So he would have had a short sword, and he would have been able to hide it on his right side. That shows you the importance of what it was to be right-handed during that time. Now here, that's the side of strength. When we talk about right, we're talking about the side that is strong. You carry a shield on your left because that's your weak side. You want to make sure that side's protected, but your strong side, your right side, is the one you're going to use your weapon for. Here it's the same reference. Ehud is able to use their lack of understanding of his left-handedness to be able to hide a knife in because it's on his strong side. They don't expect it. Here too, when Jesus talks about the separating of the right and the left, the right side is always the strong side. The right. When Jesus talks about sitting on the right hand of the Father, that's the important part. That's the place of preeminence. Okay, so the right side is the side when he talks about here, this is what you would call the good side. So whenever I do illustrations, it's interesting when I do them. I typically, when I preach, will go to the right for the good and the left for the bad, but for you it's the opposite, which is rather ironic. But the right side is always the good side. You always want to be on the right side. So he puts the sheep over on the right. And on the left side, he puts the goats. What's the difference between sheep and goats? Besides the fact that one's sheep and one's goats. What's the difference maybe in the law between sheep and goats?
Well, the goats were always the ones that they wanted to sacrifice.
What were the pure sacrifices?
Sheep.
Sheep were the pure sacrifices. Goats were used in instances where maybe you didn't have enough funds. That's what you raised. So they weren't seen to be as clean, whereas sheep, because of their white wool, were seen to be pure, as white's shown to be purity. In fact, when they went to send out all the sins out of the camp of Israel, does anyone know what they did?
They put it on a goat.
They put it on a goat. They called it a what? A scapegoat, or a zazel, as it's been translated in the Old Hebrew. But they put their hands and they put their sins on a goat and they sent it out of the camp. Now again, that's an illustration of Jesus, putting all the sins on Jesus and sending him out of the city where he gets crucified on the cross outside the city. So that's an illustration. But again, the goats were more of the, not accursed things, but not as clean. They're not seen to be as clean as sheep. Where sheep are the preeminent sacrifices. They're the ones you really want to have. There are specific ones for goats, but you want to have sheep more than you do goats.
Weren't the goats more aggressive than sheep, or no? Were they more aggressive of an animal than a sheep were? Or sheep more timid?
I don't know. I've seen plenty of things where rams tend to butt people around quite a bit, and they're sheep, so I couldn't. I do know goats can do that, but I don't know anything about that. Yeah, in reference to Scripture. Well, when he's talking about we're separating the good from the bad. Okay. or the good from the not so good, okay? Now when it talks about nations, what's another illustration of nations that you can think of that kind of comes to my mind when it talks about all the nations gathered before him? What's another place in Scripture where we talk about that? Anyone remember Revelation? Revelation. That's a big one. Revelation. All these nations get gathered before him, right? And he's going to put them in front of the judgment seat. This is what we're referring to here. This is it right here. When the Son of Man comes in his glory. So after we talk about the totality of everything that's happened with, again, he's capping off, because we're going to go into the rest of the Holy Week coming up pretty soon, the next chapter. Right here, he's capping off what he's talking about when he's talking about the end times. He's finalizing it. He says, so everything is done, all the tribulations, everything that's been completed, however that gets interpreted in terms of prophecy. Then at the end, when the Son of Man comes in his glory, at the end, this is going to be the final end of it. This is the end, what's going to happen. He comes and he separates the nations. Now when we talk about nations, when it comes to, and this is why I reference Revelation, when it comes to nations, who are the ones that are going to be presented in front of him? What people from those nations will be presented to Jesus in the end? Believers, Christians. I don't like to use the term Christian because they don't always use the term Christian, but believers, followers of Christ. Those who have chosen to believe in him and follow his way. Those who have said, I want Jesus. He's it. I know he's the only way. He's the one that I choose. These are the individuals from all these nations that are getting presented to him. In fact, in Revelation it references 10,000 upon 10,000. These billions of people are going to be presented to Christ at the end as his church. And yet, here he is taking his church, and there's a reason why we say this coming up here in a little bit, but he's going to take his church and put them before him. This is his church. Those who call him what?
Lord.
Lord. The ones who call him Lord are his church. The word Lord that we're going to be using is the same word that's used for Lord every other time you see it in the New Testament. It's kuriou in the Greek, or in the Hebrew would be Adonai. It's the same function for Lord, the one who is above all. Okay? So now he's getting all the nations gathered for him, and he separates them up. So he's got the ones on the right, he's got the ones on the left. Can I get someone to read from 34 down through 36?
Then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, and the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me.
So what are all these things? What are these things here that he's talking about that these individuals did? What's the kind of way we can classify them?
Being a doer of the word instead of
Being a doer of the word, but
work.
physical things, physical needs. They're being doers of the word because they're fulfilling actual physical needs. Sometimes we say, well, wait a minute, what about, visiting me, or I was a stranger, you welcomed me? Think about that. There have been times when you've been lonely, or like we have visitors here. When we have them, you welcome people. You bring them in. You're hospitable. You say, sometimes it's as simple as saying, how are you doing? Because I can tell you, and I can only use my experience in this, from someone who is very introverted. And again, like Tyler talked about on Sunday, it's funny that you're smiling at that, because it's very true. You think, oh, Russell's introverted. Yes, I can be very introverted. Put me in a room with 100 people I don't know, and I won't get to know one of them. So there you go. But as an introverted individual, when you're presented into a circumstance or a situation where it's very new to you, that can be very, very daunting. You don't know what to say. You don't know how to interact. For me, I don't know if these people are okay with hats or not, or shorts or not, or if they're okay with me moving my hands or not, or whether I stand like this, or I can pray like this, or whether I can use certain words when I pray, whether or not I can express myself in ways of worship. I don't necessarily do that, but I like to tap on the bench. And I can imagine some people holding the bench, kind of, who is he tapping on the bench for? Because I like that. I like to feel the rhythm, when I'm singing. Not a hand raiser. Raise your hands all you want. I don't raise my hands. I just like to bang on the pew. But that's what I'm saying. So for someone like me, when someone comes up and says, "Hi, my name is Brenda. How are you doing today?" And I say, "I'm doing well. This is new to me. I'm new here. But I appreciate you talking to me." And then Brenda says, "You know what? I have a picture I want you to look at." And as soon as that starts, that puts a little crack in my armor. And that little armor starts to spread a little bit and starts to come off just a little bit. And that person gets more warm. And that person says, and I use Brenda as an example because Brenda is very good at doing that. And it kind of opens me up a little bit as an introvert. And I say, someone's interested in me. And then when Brenda says, "Come over and sit with our group. I think they'll love you." And I come over and go, "Oh boy, I don't know about that." And they say, "Oh, how are you? And what's your name?" And I say, "My name's Russell." And it just opens you up sometimes. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about actual needs. And it's not always just food for the mouth or drink for the belly. Sometimes it's getting to know someone just for that moment. Because then they go home and they say, "There was that lady. She showed me that picture. I don't remember what the picture was, but I remember she talked to me and she had me come sit down with her friends and they were all nice and they talked to me and I really thoroughly enjoyed that. Maybe I want to go back there." And that starts a spark. Just a little spark. If you want to be Jesus, sometimes that's all it takes. In this case, we have many of them here. I was hungry, you gave me food. You want to be Jesus? Feed somebody. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. You want to be Jesus? Let someone have something to drink. A cup of cold water, as Jesus says, given in my name. Surely that person will not lose his reward. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. We talked about that. I was naked, you clothed me. You want to be Jesus? Offer people clothes. I know that some churches do that. I don't think we do that here. I'm not sure about that. But I know that a lot of churches have clothing closets. I was a part of one. It was really beautiful. People would come and they would pick out a few outfits. You could only pick out so many, but some people would come in because they didn't have any nice button-down shirts for their job. They didn't have anything that they could go and be presentable with. And so they came and got those. So we're talking about clothing. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. We're talking about individuals. I know there are several of you that visit and you call people. You make sure that people are feeling loved, that they feel like someone knows them. If you want to talk about being Jesus, it's getting those needs filled. These are physical needs, they're mental needs, spiritual needs, but these are things that sometimes we overlook. But we've been, maybe not in prison, I've never been to prison, but all these other things. Everyone's been sick in here at least once, probably in their entire life. Everyone's needed clothes maybe at some point, maybe needed something to eat. And I'm not talking about just, "Man, I'm hungry. I could really go for a burger." That really does sound good right now. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you actually need food. When I was a kid, we went to a food pantry a couple times. Sometimes you need to have that fulfilled. That's what we're talking about. Real physical needs. Something I find interesting here. What does Jesus say first before he talks about the fulfillment of needs? What is the very first thing he says before he goes to talk about all these wonderful things you've done?
Come, you who are blessed by my Father.
Yeah, come to me. You're the ones who have been blessed because you're the ones who are absolutely the ones who have been chosen. Now again, many are called, few are chosen. Does that mean God goes, you, and you? No. He means the ones that have, like Joe said earlier, done what is written. The ones who have done the will of my Father. Because he says to those, the kingdom has been prepared for you from the foundation of the world. He says that, and then he moves into for, meaning the reason that you have all this waiting for you is because you did this. Now I love the next section. This is one of my favorite parables. I probably said it 100 times. My favorite parables because there's a back and forth here. Usually it's a master and his servants, but here it's a lot of people, and it gets right down into the nitty-gritty of what needed to be done. He says what needed to be done, and then there's a response there. In verse 37, there's a particular word that I really love. So can I get someone to read from 37 through 40?
Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me.
There's a word there, verse 37, that's not used for the next group at all. What is that descriptor that's used for this group? Righteous. Do you ever feel righteous? Only because of Jesus. Do you ever feel like you're holy enough?
No.
Do you ever feel like you're good enough? I think it's great because even Paul says, though I have not yet obtained it, I still run the race. I love those words because even Paul says, I'm not going to get there by my own force. There's nothing that I can do that's going to get there. I have to rely on the mercy. I have to rely on the grace. I have to rely on the love of Jesus to be able to get me there. But at the same time, it says here, as Jesus uses the descriptor for this group who did all these things, he says, then the righteous will answer him. And how do the righteous answer him? What do they say? Do they say, well, sure, I remember doing that. What's their response?
When did I do
What
that?
did we do?
When did we do that? When did we do that? When did, and I love how they say it, when did we see you hungry? And what's funny here, and I like the way that they're going to parallel this, and I'll go with it now before we go into the next section. But what do they do here? They say, when did we see you hungry? And then what are the words right after that? When did we see you hungry and feed you? They don't just say, when did we see you hungry? They also talk about the action required to fulfill that previous statement. When did we see you hungry and feed you? And they do that with every single one of those. When did we see you thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? They don't just talk about the very problem that needed to be resolved, they also discuss the resolution. They don't just look at it as something like, when did we see you naked? When did we see you hungry? When did we see you cold? And when did we see you thirsty? We didn't see these things. They said, when do we see you this way? And when did we go forward to resolve it? The people who are here that are stated here as righteous are individuals who do not just see the world as having needs. But the individuals here that are described are the ones who see the world as having needs, and then they go and fulfill them. We're not just talking about people who says, man, this is a really horrible place and there's horrible things that are going on. There are people who say, this is a horrible place. What is my place in this? And what do I do? Man, there's a lot of horrible things going on. What can I do in all of this to resolve just a little bit? To be just a little drop of water in a dry desert. Just a little cup of cold water. What can I do? That's what these individuals are saying in this section. And then, the response there, the king answers them, and I love that. Truly, or the truth I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these. And in fact, that word there, when it says least, is to be the less of all. So the least of all. And when it talks about my brothers, some of your translations have brothers and sisters. That's talking about those that are within the faith. What did you do for the people that are in the faith? what did you do for our brothers and sisters in Christ? And he says, because you did these things to the least of them, you did it to me. I love that, because when we work and do things for Jesus, we don't just do them for Jesus, we end up doing them for people. And when we do things for people, even as small as paying an electric bill sometimes, filling a need, you do these things for Jesus. Somebody needs something. In fact, I think about Thanksgiving, and when I think about Thanksgiving in the past, I've been a part of churches who did like Thanksgiving baskets, and sometimes getting those things together could be really trying at times, because you're rushing sometimes at the last minute to get turkeys and stuffing, and you get all this stuff. But then the families that I've seen, I'm not going to cry, that I've seen, that because it's very dear to my heart, when you take these things to them, again, introverted guy, sometimes other people aren't introverted, or they are introverted, and I know what it's like to be introverted. I know what people need because I've been there, and you go and you do that. And when you do that for these people, the look on their faces is just like, man, I appreciate that. It's rare that I've ever done something like that and not been appreciated. Sometimes you get instances, I haven't seen it, but where you care for someone in a special way and sort of like, oh, well, thanks, that was great. But typically in those situations, those circumstances, when you do something for someone who actually has a need, or wants to just enjoy a Thanksgiving without having to worry the budget, or having to worry about getting things at the last minute, and you're able to procure these things, they think it's so wonderful, and they really take it in a beautiful way in their heart. And that's what we're talking about here. Caring in very substantive, real ways for people. And when you do that, you do it for Jesus.
If a brother or sister be naked and destitute and dead, and one of you say to them, depart ye in peace, I'll pray for you, or be warm, I'll pray for you. What does it profit? Faith without works is dead. You know, the big key word here was, as you can talking about this, opportunity. That's the major word, just like the story about the Samaritan. They had opportunity to help this individual. And sometimes, like you said, even the most small situation, you're given the opportunity. Now, what you do with it, you know, is work for doing unto the Lord, so to speak. You know, help a person fix a flat, help them go.
Well, I was going to mention that.
Yeah.
Some of you, I don't want you pulling over and fixing someone's flat.
Yeah.
There are other individuals who are probably more skilled at that. Joe, you offered to do that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. But I'm talking about real circumstances that you can really fulfill. And a lot of you actually have family that, whether or not you're at the best terms with those families members, and I hope that you will work on those things, it can be very hard to want to help them, but helping them is being Jesus. Being Jesus means loving your brothers and sisters in a real way, of the people that you see, or like Joe said, opportunity. If you have the opportunity and you fail to take it, years ago, there was someone pulled over on the side of Tidewater, and I thought about them as I was driving by. I said, I wonder if they need any help, and I kept driving. And you know what hit me so hard right after that? I should have stopped.
Yeah.
Man, I burst into tears in my car, and the Spirit was like, man, I gave you that opportunity, and you didn't take it. And it felt so hard in my soul, it felt guilty. Now, I'm not telling everyone here, pull over your car, and when it's 1 o'clock in the morning and you're on a dusty highway and there's nobody around, it's pitch black and there's no moon, pull over to the side of the road with some guy in sunglasses, and no, that's not what I'm saying. We'll let Ed do that. Ed can cover that. Or I could do that, but yeah, you have to be careful in those situations as well. But doing the real things that you see opportunity to do that you can actually take care of, that you can handle. And sometimes it's so simple, like I said, it's say, hello, how are you doing? It's good to have you.
I know in a store a lot of times, not to be jumping at, but somebody's got a big basket full of stuff, and I come walking up there with maybe 2 items. You go ahead getting ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a great situation right there.
Courtesy.
Yeah, courtesy. Yeah.
You know what? That's really lacking.
Well, yeah.
We really, really lack
Courtesy.
courtesy, patience, kindness. Sometimes I think self-worth. I don't think people really think that they're worth anything. So they just kind of do whatever they want. And I go, you're worth more than that. You're worth more than just to be the way you behave. You're better than that. You know, you have worth, especially when it comes to who Christ is. Does anyone else have anything for that section? All right, so this next section is one where we get really into the nitty-gritty. Can I get someone to read 41 all the way through the end?
Then the mistake goes under the left. Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me. They also will answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or needing clothes, or sick, or in prison, and did not help you? He will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me. Then they will go away to eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life.
So again, he uses that word to describe that first group, righteous. The righteous into eternal life. I mentioned it before, but what's the difference here in their response from the first group? How did they respond versus how the first group responds?
Put it all together.
They put it all together. They kind of smash it all together. Wait, we didn't see a hungry, thirsty, stranger, naked, in prison, sick. We didn't see these things. Sometimes people don't see things because they're not looking. A lot of times we don't even look around us. We get so focused, and I think about that right now in my time of life, thinking about just what's going on in my circumstance. Not really looking around, not really saying, oh, there's something else out there. Someone else has a need. I thought about that when we grabbed the Christmas box. On Sunday, my wife goes, I grabbed one of those little Christmas boxes. I said, that's cool, because last year, or the whatever year, I don't know if we did them last year. The last time we did it, when I did a little Christmas box, I remember wanting to get all these big items and kind of putting them in the, like you said, you can't put that in a box. I was like, I want to give them a Transformer. Like, I don't give them Transformers. So I have lots of those, you know. No, I have military toys, you know, they don't want military toys. Stuff like that. But getting, when I think about getting kids stuff, I just think about when I was a kid and what kind of things I really loved, you know. But those are kind of tangible needs, and these are things that we do, and yet, when you think about those things, you kind of have to be looking around to see them. You kind of have to be aware of everything other than what's in your little 3-foot box. I think as someone, like I said, as someone who's introverted, I can be very, you know, don't touch me. Don't come near me because I don't want to be touched. I can be that way. Being in this group kind of really warms me up. So because I know all of you, almost all of you by name, just about at this point, I would hope. Don't quiz me on last names. I don't know last names. There are very few that I know. Yeah, don't quiz me on them. But yeah, because I feel that way, I feel so warm to be able to greet people by their first name, to be able to say, how are you doing? Good morning. Whereas I walk into a strange place or with strangers, it can be harder for me to do that. But when I'm in a comfortable place, to be able to just open up in that way. When you do these things, you have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to be aware of where you are. You have to be aware of who you're with. Like when we come together on Sundays, I don't know who everybody is. So when you greet someone who's new, I don't know whether they've been there or not. You say, hey, welcome to church. Yeah, I've been here for 3 years. I'm sorry. I haven't seen you. I'm sorry about that. I know it was that way when we did 2 services. I was greeting everyone in the second service like they'd never been there. And they were there longer than I had. You know, so, but that's what we're talking about. We're talking about getting past your bubble. Looking out past that, beyond that. And then not just kind of lumping everything into one big hole and just saying, oh, well, Lord, when did we see you in these circumstances? We have to be aware of what He's putting us into the situations He puts us in, and then how we're supposed to respond to them. And I love what He says at the beginning, where He says, right there, He says, He'll say to those on His left, the first group was what? They're righteous, but He says another thing about them. They're what by His Father? Right in that first group, they're blessed. He says they're blessed by his Father. And then this group is now what? They're cursed. Are they cursed because God cursed them?
No,
Why are they cursed?
Because they didn't do what they were supposed to.
They didn't do what they were supposed to do. Why is the first group blessed?
They didn't do.
Because they did do. God blesses and he curses. He curses because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. He blesses because they did what they were supposed to do. And then in the end, he wraps it up there. Truly I say to you, as you did not do for the less of these, or the least of these, you did not do it to me. And these will go into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. We have to remember that doing for Jesus, or doing for the least of these, or the sometimes the one who shows up in some dirty pants and a dirty shirt because they came from work. I think about Adriana's dad. I think about Justin. When he comes in and he's come right off work. I don't know if he does that anymore. He still does that? He comes right from work to church?
No, not anymore.
Not anymore. But he was doing that. He come right from work,
Yeah.
right to church. And I can fathom that maybe he doesn't smell the best. Maybe he's been moving around a lot. Maybe he's a little bit tired. But sometimes... Tired, yeah. Sometimes that can mean the least of these. Sometimes we see these individuals and we kind of write them off. We say, no, that's not what we're looking to have here. And yet, those are sometimes the people who really need to be ministered to. They need the patience. They need the love. They need the mercy that we've been shown. Show to them. They need the grace to be shown to them. There are people that are, as we talked about, with Thomas during the men's breakfast, he talked about people who have autism, people who are very, very different in their thinking, giving them grace, being understanding of who they are, knowing that they don't think like us, they think in a different world. These sometimes are called the least of these. We used to put people like that in asylums, and yet there were people who visited them, there were people who cared for them, there are people who go through depression, there are people who go through times of mania where they don't know what they're doing and they can do harmful things to themselves. And yet we are to love these people in a very, very unique way. Sometimes it just means sitting there and listening. And in doing that, that fulfills the visiting part. Now, I'm not saying this is a total list of everything, but this would have been a list of things that at that time meant the most to them. Sometimes it's a phone call. Sometimes it's a card. I'm not a card guy. Many of you are card people. A card means a lot to you. A phone call means a lot to others. A visitation means a lot to others. Fulfilling needs means a lot to everybody. So we have to remember that we want to be following Jesus, that doing these things for the least of these is exactly what we want to do to be the kind of people who are blessed by God and who will see eternal life in the end.
You know, not to interrupt you, but
Oh, you go.
one of the biggest things going on in this country right now with the young people is the suicide rate. You've heard about that. And I happen to think that the people that might know that individual, he might see all the signs that's going on with him, but yet, and just walk away or just ignore it. And he might have prevented that individual from committing suicide if he would have stopped, talk to him and find out what's going on and consoling and that kind of stuff, So it might prevent that.
There was a quote, I don't know if many of you know him, Marilyn Manson, the singer, the rock star. Marilyn Manson had a quote, this is years ago, sometime in the late 90s, where he said he was a Christian, or not a Christian as a kid, but he was raised in the church and everything. And he went to a Bible camp once. And he said, being a weird kid, he went to that Bible camp and he said, if any of those kids at that camp had really gotten to know me and had taken the time to be my friend, I don't think I'd be where I am now. I don't think I'd have been on this path. When I think about that, I think about just how profound it is when I think about, I want people to come and say hi to me. Maybe there are other people who would like to be said hi to. If I'd like to be said hi to, maybe they'd like to be said hi to. And that sometimes it's just a little bitty thing that puts us on a road to, in my case, a little bit of extroversion as I am here talking, much like Tyler was talking about on Sunday, as I go and ramble here. But yeah, does anyone have anything else for that section? All All right, great. Thank you very much this morning. We move on to 26 next week.